The problem with Rush Limbaugh is not that he existed or what he said and did. The problem with Rush Limbaugh is that he is admired by the rest of our news media. He was taken seriously based on his success versus his qualities. Quality is something either deemed impossible to distinguish or else something separate and less important than popularity and success. Anyone you hear praising Rush Limbaugh in any way is revealing their values to you. Without Rush, there would have been no President Donald Trump. And it isn't because of anything Rush said or did, it's because of how the mainstream media respected, borderline worshipped him. Many in our media have no core principles greater than wanting fame, money, and success, so Rush fascinated them. Rush Limbaugh, Fox News, and for a time, The Drudge Report all have been held in high esteem by the rest of our media due to their success, not their quality. Matt Drudge's Drudge Report is an interesting side story. He was the internet Rush Limbaugh, the most dominant driver of political news at one time, now faded into obscurity like a lot of things from that period of the internet. Early sites I used to enjoy that are now impossible to find any evidence of. My own proto-blogs, LiveJournal, say. That era has been superseded and erased largely by social media services today. At one time, the head of political reporting for ABC News and the founder of Politico co-wrote in a book that Matt Drudge was, quote, the Walter Cronkite of his era, unquote. Walter Cronkite is most known now, I would say, for two things: shedding a tear when he reported live the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and for stating directly to the American people his assessment that the Vietnam War could only end in a stalemate. He is remembered for those two out-of-character moments of being himself. There were probably about 5,000 other times that he anchored the news completely straight. Those times were the templates that earned him the trust to be able to break from pure objectivity and still maintain good faith. Speaking in good faith is an attribute contemporary media seems no longer to fully admire. It is certainly not a trait that could be ascribed to Limbaugh, who frequently used excuses like, "I'm only an entertainer, I'm only joking," to weasel out of any calls for accountability. What did he believe? Who knew? All that mattered was success. The only thing that most modern news media could be seen to have learned from Cronkite was that he maintained high ratings and a Q-score that was good. I frequently lament a bias in news media, but it's not a liberal or conservative bias, it's a shallow bias. Cronkite is the newscaster I grew up on. It was a different world. It's insulting to hear Drudge compared to him, not insulting to Cronkite, who is dead, and whose distinguished career cannot be taken away from him. It's insulting to all of us that this idiotic comparison was made by two stewards of contemporary news reporting. That is the rot in our discourse. Not Drudge, not Fox, not Limbaugh, and not even Trump, but the people who should know better, who elevate the worst among us, when that time could be spent honoring the best of us. Drudge's star faded because his medium was eclipsed. Both Matt Drudge and Rush Limbaugh attempted TV crossovers that failed. No one really wanted to watch Rush every day on TV, but he continued to succeed on radio. Radio is a legacy medium that is not going away. I've heard it speculated that Rush could only succeed on radio, where a sizable audience wants to tune in and hear a loudmouth spew opinions while they drive from job to job or wolf down their lunches. They don't desire nuance or education, they want trash. Rush dished it out daily for decades. Junk food is not a huge problem when it is consumed alongside greater portions of healthy nourishment. That's why I believe the lack of sustenance provided by our media overall is the biggest problem we face. On one of his last broadcasts, heard by an estimated 15 million people, Limbaugh said this: "I actually think, and I've referenced this, I've alluded to this a couple of times because I've seen others allude to this, I actually think that we're trending towards secession. I see more and more people asking, what in the world do we have in common with the people who live in, say, New York? There cannot be a peaceful coexistence of two completely different theories of life, theories of government, theories of how we manage our affairs. We can't be in this dire a conflict without something giving somewhere along the way. So I know that there's a sizable and growing sentiment for people who believe that that is where we're headed, whether we want to go there or not. I feel like it's easy for him to say, well, one, he was clearly months from the end of his life, we know now, but also he was totally rich and ensconced in his Palm Beach lifestyle. I don't think that serious people who know what suffering is like would say something like that so flippantly. I disagree. I say that every one of us who lives in the United States has a lot in common, and there are many reasons to continue to support the system of government that we live under. That's one reason, for all of its corniness, I support the unifying things President Joe Biden says. Someone needs to be saying it, and in our system it is fitting for our president to speak that way. It is also appropriate for President Biden and those in his administration to, at the same time, fight vigorously for their policy preferences and not compromise unnecessarily. I see no contradiction or bad faith in that. In addition to broadcasting unhelpful statements, like that one, Rush Limbaugh also resorted again and again to bigoted, misogynistic, and racist remarks to entertain and stimulate his audience. Donald Trump awarded Limbaugh the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. It is fair to say that Rush Limbaugh is one of the lowest humans to have ever received that designation. I would say I'm glad he's dead, but there's a gaping hole for a hate-filled screamer on nationwide radio, possibly a hole that can only be filled by Donald Trump. Since I criticized the national media for elevating the worst of us when they could be honoring the best, and this very video is guilty of that same thing, I will end by listing some of the amazing humans who deservingly received the Presidential Medal of Honor. Marian Anderson, Helen Keller, Leontyne Price, A. Philip Randolph, Ralph Ellison, Martha Graham, Jesse Owens, Georgia O'Keeffe, Norman Rockwell, Margaret Mead, Eudora Welty, Beverly Sills, Tennessee Williams, Martin Luther King Jr., Arthur Ashe, Rosa Parks, Henry Aaron, Billie Jean King, Harvey Milk, Bayard Rustin, Nelson Mandela, Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison, Isabel Allende, Fred Rogers, Sargent Shriver, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and Thurgood Marshall. Reading about any of them would be a better use of your time than thinking any further about one man named Rush Limbaugh.